Now joining me on the Peerless Boilers hotline, former New Orleans Saints running back in the 1980s. Now he's with WWL as the New Orleans Saints color analyst, and that's Hokie Gajan. Hokie, Zach Gelb here, TalkUSA.tv. Thank you for joining me, and how are you on this fine evening?
I'm doing fine, Zach. How are you doing?
Well, I'm doing great myself, and a happy Thanksgiving to you. And on my Thanksgiving table, I have lasagna with pepperoni and sausage, and I can't leave Thanksgiving without having that and a few helpings of that. On your Thanksgiving table, what's the one thing that you need to have before you leave?
You know what? Down here in South Louisiana, we have a tendency to fry everything, and if you never had a fried turkey, you ought to try it at least one time. It's pretty good stuff, but I certainly understand what you have, and I mean everybody's got their own special little favorite, and you know whether it be from the yams, the green bean casserole, the baked turkey, whatever. Our kind of tradition down here is a fried turkey. It's pretty good.
I know you played your collegiate career at LSU. Do you think LSU will run the table this year and get to that national championship game?
Well, I'll tell you what. You know what? Arkansas has given them a lot of trouble in the last couple of years. And look, Arkansas is ranked number 3 right now for a reason, because they're a very good team. But you know what? LSU is a very good team. And I don't know that, and if you sit there and put a gun to my head and say, whose defense is better, LSU or Alabama, I'd have a hard time picking one or the other. I think I would give the edge a little bit to Alabama because of Nick Saban. He makes those guys play a little bit more disciplined defense. When you watch an LSU defense, you're going to see those guys give up a big play because they have a tendency to overrun. Both teams have tremendous speed and all that. I think LSU's a little bit, slightly a little undisciplined, whereas a Nick Saban defense, he's going to tell those guys, stay in your gap. You've got enough speed to get there. You don't have to worry about it. The guy's not going to outrun you to the flank. You just stay in your gaps and don't allow the big cutback run. LSU had a tendency to do that from time to time, but heck, other than that, I look at this LSU-Arkansas game, and, if LSU plays their style of ball, it should be, I'm not going to say easy. Arkansas is number 3 for a reason, but you should be able to handle this bunch because you can rush the passer. You've got a tremendous secondary. Just do your responsibilities.
Well, LSU already played Alabama in the game of the century, and LSU did get that victory. As an LSU former player, would you be a little bit annoyed if you had to go out there and play Alabama yet again and beat them twice in order to win the national championship game? Because to me, it seems a little bit unfair, because if Alabama wins that national championship game and they play LSU in that game, then in essence, they're both at 1-1 on the year.
Well, Zach, what are the greatest rematches in sports? Ali Frazier.
Yep.
Celtic Lakers. Yankees Red Sox. Godzilla King Kong. Whatever you want to, however you want to throw it out there. I think the rematch is a great thing. You know what? You go ahead, especially if the one that won the first go round, if you win it the second go round, you go, look, no more questions. It's over. It's done with. So you know what? And I don't have a problem with the rematch, because the way that the BCS system is set up right now, the alternative is, it's terrible, because it could be Oklahoma State, it could be Alabama against Arkansas, it could be LSU versus Arkansas, it could be Alabama versus Oklahoma State. There's so many scenarios that can come in there. Well, if everybody, the prognosticators and everybody that has a vote in this whole thing, and they say, all right, LSU and Alabama are clearly the 2 best teams in the country, but the problem is they're both in the SEC West. So they can't play together in the SEC championship game, but yet they can meet in the BCS championship game. So if they're the 2 best teams, why not let it happen? I'm not taking anything away from the different programs out there, Stanford, Boise State. LSU's already beaten Oregon, so, that's kind of out of the picture right there. But there's so many different teams that, you could say, well, they should be in the championship game because they've only got 1 loss. And if if everybody that watches college football says that LSU and Alabama are without question the two best teams in college football, then why should they not play in that game? So why should I have a problem with a rematch?
I do think we'll actually see that game. I think Alabama will be number 2 and LSU will be number 1 when the regular season is all said as done, as we're talking Hokie Gajan. And Hokie, the Giants play the Saints this week on Monday Night Football. The Saints have been so great in that building over their last few years. What makes the Saints so great at home?
I don't know. I guess it's just home field advantage. I mean, it's kind of hard to say. I will say this. I think that they do play their best football when it's prime time. You look at their records under Sean Payton when he came here in 2006. I think they're 7-2 in primetime football games. They kind of seem to rise to the occasion. But I think you also have to look at home field advantage. But you know what? Sometimes in this sport, you just sit back and go, you know what? This looks like a team that you should beat, and they go out there and do that. And then you can also show up against, and I'm really bringing this up against the Rams there a couple weeks ago, and the Rams were winless. And you know this ought to be an easy win, and they go out there and lay an egg. So they're a little bit different team than they were in '09 when they went on to win the Super Bowl. But they're still a very good team, and I'm still trying to figure them out right now. After 10 games through the season, I look at it and go, gosh dang, that's good stuff. I mean, look, I know the Colts are without Peyton Manning, but they still got Dwight Freeney, Robert Mathis, Joseph Adai, Reggie Wayne, Pierre Garçon. The Colts still had a lot of good people. Well, the Saints went out there and beat them 62-7. And then they backed that up with a clunker against the Rams the next week. So I'm still a little uneasy about this team. And first of all, look, I don't think anybody is going to catch the Packers in the NFC. But the Saints need to make a strong push that at least they get an opportunity to play one playoff game at home at the end of the season. But you're still talking about 6 games to go.
You mentioned the Indianapolis Colts, and that team has just been a train wreck this year without their leader, Peyton Manning. And I know the voters won't vote this way, and I do believe, barring any injury, Aaron Rodgers will get the MVP this year. But can you make a case that Peyton Manning should be the National Football League's MVP at the end of the season?
You know what, Zach? That's not a bad argument to make. I mean, you can't do that for a player that hadn't played, but yes, you got a very good case right there, but I mean, I don't get a chance to do any kind of voting on anything or whatnot, but I think it gives you an idea of who is the most important person to their team, because there's still a lot of pieces of that team that won the Super Bowl a few years ago, lost the Super Bowl a couple years ago, and they're still there right now. But without Peyton Manning, you go. And I heard all the the tongue-in-cheek comments when after the Saints had beat them so bad, said that Peyton Manning should go in tomorrow morning and ask for a raise, and there's an opportunity that
he doesn't need a raise. He has enough money.
Yeah, I mean, there's a chance he may never play another down again. I mean, we don't know, but that just goes to show you how much he means to that club. So, but I don't know. I mean, I guess if I'm really. Right now, at this stage, if I'm voting for an MVP, it might be Alex Smith out there with the 49ers. And look, we played him in the preseason, and I said, you know what, if the 49ers win 4 games, they'll be lucky. And look at them right now. I think Alex Smith is having a very quiet, terrific season, but that's just me.